Anthony Hill Jr., the Longhorns, Swiss Army knife and do-it-all linebacker, has top 15 potential for the 2026 NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast. Cover your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. Today, we're going to talk about the running backs of the defense, those linebackers, and why you need to be prepared to like what 2026 for the NFL Draft has to offer during the 2025 college football season. We have Anthony Hill, a guy that had from Texas that has top 15 buzz and hype right now. Deontay Lawson coming off a torn ACL towards the end of last season. He's 100 going into the season, getting ready to be 100%. What can he do for Alabama's defense? And then LSU, Whit Weeks. And why does he remind me of a second-round pick from this year's class? We're going to talk about that and more in just a moment. But before that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 back in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Anthony Hill Jr., Keith, out of Texas. This is a guy that he's listed at 6'3", 237 pounds, and he's a do-it-all linebacker, Keith. Like, he is so impactful for Steve Sarkisian's Texas Longhorns, and just the way that they deploy him, from not just being a second-level off-ball backer to this young man rushes a passer. And guys, he's an off-ball backer, but I want to throw these numbers out there to you. 6 sacks, 7 QB hits. He has four fumbles forced on the season last year, 10 hurries. He also had north of 70 tackles. Right, he drops off into coverage. He does so many different things. He wears a lot of hats for this defense. And Keith, I'm gonna say this: he is my. If you ask me for a statement for Anthony Hill, I think he's this year's Jihad Campbell. Where we saw what Jihad was able to play drop off in coverage, trigger downhill to the run game, blitz through the A gaps. But then you see him line up on the edge and rush the passer. Now, I think Jihad is probably a little bit better and more utilized as a true pass rusher off the edge. That was a bigger part of his game. But I'm watching reps where Anthony Hill walks down and he's on the edge and he does win one-on-one when he gets the opportunity, especially to get him against a tight end or even a running back stepping up and he showcases the dip rip move. And I'm like, this is a off-ball back. And Keith, I'm telling you, this is kind of starting to look like the new mold at linebacker that the days of being a pure second-level defender kind of, to me, is starting to trend out to being over. You're starting to see more guys that can walk down to the edge and rush.
Yeah, and it's because obviously just where the game is that's so important, right? But I want to look at Anthony Hill too I'll say this, looking at Anthony Hill from the landscape of, I thought of the New England Patriots because Bill Belichick was kind of one of those coaches that love to use his linebackers as blitzers, right? Like love to get them involved in rushing a passer. And that's why I thought about, I think he would be all over Bill Belichick's board, right? If this was 2007, 2008, a big guy that's just a downhill thumper, right? One thing that I liked about Anthony Hill too was the instincts, right? Like I thought that he played with pretty good instincts, diagnosing screens, also diagnosing the run. I want to ask you this though, looking at him, was he more true inside linebacker to you? Like, how did you feel about the athletic profile? I thought it was, if you had to ask me, I thought it was good. Didn't know if it was excellent.
Yeah.
But the issue is with this and just the linebacker conversation is, how many fast guys have gotten drafted at linebacker that lack the instincts, right? Like if you run a 4.4, but you take a half a second slower than a guy that runs a 4.55 or 4.6, then you're kind of slower than him, right? Like you're playing 100%. The game of football slower. Track, you can beat him. The game of football, though, you're slower than him. So I know and I've just seen those things get talked about a little bit with Anthony Hill. People talk about athletic ability and things like that. I'm kind of, and I've always been that way with linebackers, and I've been that way with safeties too. And you go back to the Kyle Hamilton conversation, right? Is that give me the guys with instincts that can make up for that anyway. And Anthony Hill, like you talked about, the sacks, the forced fumbles, the fumble recoveries, everything you're getting a second level playmaker for your defense. And so, like, how do you say no to that?
No, 100%. Like to me, and I think with him, he does. Now, is he? He had an interception in season 2. So like to add to your the playmaker title that you gave him, because he just does everything for that front seven. He's not going to test I don't think he's going to test like Devin White and what was the other Devin Bush when they came. Both of those guys at the combine busted 4.4 flats, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I don't think he's going to test like those guys, or test like Isaiah Simmons, who was, I think Isaiah Simmons tested like 4.38 or something like crazy like that, right? But because with even not Tesla, I think he's still going to be like a 4.52 guy, which is still plenty fast as a linebacker. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, he may not test like that, but I think he's a good athlete. But he gives you the best of both worlds in the sense of I am athletic, but I'm also super instinctive. And his ability to quickly read, and you always talk about the phrase for linebacker, slow until you know. And like he's the type of guy, it's slow until he knows, and once he knows, he goes. And it's just that's just what it is. And you see him slice through and just hit lanes, and he goes untouched into like a heat-seeking missile into the backfield. And so many times I seen him I saw him blow up run plays, because by the time the running back gets the handoff, he's back there because he located the football. He realized it's not RPO. This is not a slow mesh read. This is a run, and he hits the lane. But also as a blitzer, he does the same thing. His range downhill, I really like from that second level, just sitting there flat footed. He's reading, and when he needs to go, he's on he goes from 0 to 60. So that range downhill is really good. He tracks the ball even outside. So you think about, especially with the West Coast offense being so prevalent now, all the Kyle Shanahan tree coaches, the Sean McVay tree coaches, you got Clint Kubiak. So the Kubiaks are still in the NFL. That wide zone run game, you need linebackers that are instinctive enough to understand what's going on, but then have the speed to get over the top and get to the outside to stop the running back from being able to create those big explosive plays. Anthony Hill does that, man. I think I would like to see him just be more consistent in zone. I felt like he gave up some catches that I would like to see. I think he can easily eliminate in this year and everything, but just a full 3-down linebacker. He's not a guy that you have that only has to play first and second. He's not a guy that you bring on because he's a sub package coverage linebacker. He's going to be on the field all 3 downs. NFL teams are going to love him.
Yeah, and we know how important that is via the run game now, right? Being implemented, 3-down linebackers the tide may be switching, DP. Running backs may be getting more value, and linebackers might be getting more value, right? What they say? What goes up must come down, but what is down must come up, right?
Right.
Lastly, I want to say this too. Just I think seeing him improve a little bit as a tackler, meaning that there was sometimes I thought he was more of a grab and sling type of guy, and
18 missed tackles last year.
Yeah, that's a lot, and I usually want my linebackers to be body to body guys, right? Like I don't want you to grab and sling people down because first of all, you're not doing that to Saquon Barkley, right? You're not just grabbing Saquon, you're not just slinging them down, and you're
not grabbing Derrick Henry doing. You're not
doing it. You're not doing it. So just that's the one thing that I say I want to see him improve. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. Keeping it. Matter of fact, DP, this might have been a show. I think you might have. Shout out to you because you might have created this for me, right? This is a SEC.
I'm in a giving mood, Keith.
This is a SEC show. We're going from Texas to the University of Alabama. And we're going to talk about Deontay Lawson. And question is, did I have him ranked higher than Jihad Campbell last year? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the bright lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling and worth your while? with FanDuel. You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Let them deal with the heat, and let's make some money. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Are you new to FanDuel? We'll have just the thing for you. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if their first bet wins. Again, if you're a new customer to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Deontay Lawson out of Alabama, 6'2", 230 pounds. This is a guy that was having a strong season last year for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I believe he tore his ACL in the Oklahoma game, I believe it was, which was probably like their 11th game on the season, 11th or 12th game of the season last year, which, you hate to see injuries like that, especially to such a promising player. But this was a guy I was really high on coming into the season last year. And Keith, coming off of that ACL, I'm high on him again. I think he has a complete skill set that fits the modern day linebacker, man. I think he has that ability. I felt like he was going to be a high draft pick if he was able to stay healthy and enter last year's draft. But Keith, you said you might have had a higher grade on him than the one Jihad Campbell that everybody fell in love with, including ourselves. This past draft cycle, was Lawson the better prospect if he indeed was healthy and into the draft?
Yeah, so let's talk about it. We always talk about DP projection, right, versus what a guy's already done.
Yeah,
and I think in the landscape of NFL prospect, I can see why people had Jihad Campbell higher. Because you want to buy into the athleticism, you want to buy into the ability to come off of the edge, his pass rush ability, all of those things. With Deontay Lawson, I think he's already the guy that you pick up in place, right? Meaning that you see exactly what you're getting, and it's high level play. Like I think he's a day one starter in NFL for a linebacker core. Very smart, very intelligent. He's thick throughout, thick lower halves, strong upper body, instincts can flow sideline to sideline. For those who liked Christian Harris, I think he's somewhere in that kind of comparison, even though I think he may be better in the box than what Christian Harris was. And Christian was a really good athlete, right? I think once Christian ran that 4-4 or 4-5, right, that kind of stamped him as he can probably play weak side linebacker for you in a 4-3 scheme. I think Deontay has the opportunity to play your inside linebacker. I think he has the opportunity to be the leader of your defense. I think he's that talented and skilled. And to your point, the torn ACL was tough, right? And I didn't even realize that he tore his ACL until we got to draft season, and it was all of the declarations. And I'm like, man, why didn't Deontay come? Like, he probably should have had pretty good stock. Like, I feel like could have been a top 50 player.
For sure.
So, but obviously him returning off of that, now I hope that he comes back 100%, because if he comes back 100%, DP, this guy's easily a top 50 player for me. If he's the same exact as last year. And then let's see if he can jump into the back end of the first round. I think about guys like, as of recent, maybe like a Junior Colson, one of those type of players. I think they probably compare from a size perspective, but also they had the athleticism and the instincts with it too. So I like Deontay Lawson a lot, DP.
Yeah, me too, man. Like I said, 6'2", 230. Like I said, well built, proportionate build, strong tackler, fluid enough mover to trust him dropping off to spots and zone and coverage on third downs and hitting his landmarks, but also a guy that he just plays the run very well. And in today's NFL, yes, it's a passing league, but you need to be able to stop the run. Like if your defensive line is doing all the work and your linebackers are doing very minimal, you have a problem. Like, you have a problem in today's NFL, because eventually that running back's going to find the crease. And if you don't have the linebackers to at least keep that to a minimal gain, like, truthfully, you go back to the Philadelphia Eagles, like, Jalen Hurts cooked, in the Super Bowl, but man, they would have lost that game to the Rams if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley in the snow. You know what I mean? Saquon put the Rams, he hit them with the Steph Curry twice last year. You know what I mean? Hit them with the night twice. And it was just like, if you're Matthew Stafford, like, listen, man, we did everything we could do. We just couldn't stop Saquon. And it's like, yeah, when you got a running back like that, we watch it with Derrick Henry and Lamar in Baltimore. Like, you need to be able to run the ball. James Cook and Josh Allen in Buffalo and how they're able to work well together. Heck, Kareem Hunt came back with, for the Chiefs and gave them semblance of a run game and some balance. Like, you got to be able to stop the run. I think Deontay Lawson plays with good instincts. He plays with the right physicality. And like, just when I'm watching his demeanor, like he comes off like I was watching like his interview, I think at SEC Media Day. Seems like a really nice kid, really nice dude.
And so
on the field, I feel like he's a much meaner guy on the field. Like, he plays with a much meaner demeanor.
Yeah, and I'll talk to that point. He was a young man that we recruited at LSU. So this is kind of getting to the end of the guys that I kind of recruited. He was one of those guys though. And from what I remember, and obviously that was a couple of years ago, so things could have changed. But from what I remember, DP, high character young man, smart, intelligent. The coaches raved about him, and so if you think that he goes to a place like Alabama, and obviously coming under the Nick Saban regime when he started his career, that some of those things still translate at the end of the day. And then honestly, for him to stay put, right, because he had to kind of sit down for a couple of years. I think he was a 2021, 2020 prospect, like coming out of high school. So he's been there a few years at the end of the day, right? And he's had to sit, learn. He didn't, and this is in the era of the transfer portal where he could have said, okay, cool, I'm out of here after my second year, or and just left. But just being committed to the process, you like to see those things. And you have the football character question of, do they love the game of football? This seems like a young man that loves the game of football, because I'll even go here. He could have left with a torn ACL, right? And people could have told him, hey, you got a second round grade, and maybe you're going late third now. I think with this draft, and especially last year's class, if I'm remembering correctly, it wasn't a deep linebacker class. So you're talking about a guy that probably didn't lose a whole lot of draft stock in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this past draft class, we had guys who are listed as edge. I mean, as linebackers. They had Jalen Walker listed as a linebacker. I think Falcons are planning and preparing. They might use him as he's going to be an edge rusher more times than not. But they, Jihad Campbell, he was the one, in my opinion, the one true linebacker who went in round one was Jihad Campbell to the Eagles. You know what I mean? Carson Swessinger, top of the second round. He was the first pick in the second round, first pick on day 2 to the Cleveland Browns. We had Demetrius Knight, second round pick to the Cincinnati Bengals. Right then, I think you look at Nick Martin, Jack Kaiser, Danny Stutzman.
Yeah, he would have definitely went in that area, like without a doubt.
With the torn ACL,
with the torn ACL, I think
the torn ACL, he would have probably went before some of those guys. I think he would have been that Nick Martin range in third round.
Yeah, and I think without the torn ACL, if you just look at last year's draft, I think he put up a battle with Carson Swessinger at the top of the second round, right? Like, which one do you take?
He's going to be more of the downhill thumper, better tackler, frame to handle the physicality. And he might have been the pick for the Cleveland Browns, to be honest, because you got to think about drafting for your division. Not saying that Carson Swessinger isn't a good fit there, especially because of the whole injury to JOK with I think he's out again for this year because of the neck injury. His career is kind of, I think, up in limbo right now. So we don't know if he's going to ever be able to make that return. But like, even with that, like, I feel like a Deontay Lawson would have been the right pick for him if they're both on the board. Because you look at, like, man, we got to deal with Derrick Henry. We had to deal with Chase Brown in Cincinnati, right? You got to deal with now Caleb Johnson, the big, powerful running back with the Pittsburgh Steelers, him and Jalen Warren. Like, we got to deal with some running backs in our division, and he would have been better suited for that role because he's built similar to me, like to Patrick Queen a little bit. I think Patrick Queen's a better athlete, like just like pure downhill straight line athlete and everything, more coverage savvy than Lawson.
Yeah, I think I fully understand what you're saying with the comparison. I think that where their traits probably kind of differ just a little bit, Deontae may be more instinctual in the box.
100%.
And then PQ is probably the faster guy. But I agree with you that both of them, they can play middle linebacker in a 3-4 scheme, with a complimentary piece, but they also can play that weak side backer
yeah.
in a 4-3. And I mean, I said in a 3-4 scheme they could play middle,
Yeah.
but in a 4-3 they can play that weak side linebacker.
I wouldn't be surprised if Lawson could play a little Sam. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
With
that
his
too.
strength and everything.
I think
like
he can play all three. I think he
that
can
strong
play all
side
three.
backer, especially with the tight end on that side, stopping the run, things like that. Talented linebacker. I'm really excited to see him healthy again and getting the full season. Hopefully, pray he stays healthy. He trusts the knee and he just hits the ground running when Alabama lets him off the leash and gives him the clear go ahead. Hey, you're healthy, you're clear. I'm ready to see him go back out there and making plays for the Crimson Tide.
Yep, 100% with DP. Let's wrap this up, man. In Bayou Country, we are going to LSU linebacker Whit Weeks. And for those draft scouts, draft analysts out there, we're going to be hearing the last name Weeks for a while because there's 3 of them on LSU's roster now. Yeah, it's three brothers, DP. So we're going to be there. There's going to be a whole lot of weeks going on at LSU and in the draft community. But let's talk about LSU's linebacker Whit Weeks coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayer. 6'2", 225-pound linebacker for LSU. Whit Weeks, 4 sacks, 8 QB hits, 13 pressures, 2 batted passes. He had over 80 tackles last year, 2 fumbles forced, dropped off into coverage. He rushed a passer. He blitzed. He does a lot of different things for that LSU defense. And this is a guy I liked. He plays with his hair on fire. He is active, but I also love the movement skills. Like there was a play I was watching. He was playing coverage and he had his assignment, but then the ball went probably 5 to 6 yards to his right, and how quickly he identified it and then changed directions and went and made a big hit on the receiver. I think it was receiver or tight end, and limited to no gain after the catch. Right, like he's just like kind of an animal roaming that second level, and he body type wise, and like when I was looking at him, I gotta look up. Like, I want to make sure I got this right. When I was watching him, the name that we kind of talked about him already that came to mind was Carson Swessinger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Carson Swessinger is a little heavier. I think he's 6'2".
Like
well, he came in the
pounds.
combine. Yeah, but like he came in the combine at 6'2" and 6'2 and a half, 242. Does he play at 242? I don't know. You know what I mean? He might play like 235. Like he just bulked up for the combine. We know guys do that a lot. But like, because no, I did not think he was 240 at UCLA. I feel like he was in the 230s for sure. But it's just like the athletic playmaker, guy that was good triggering downhill, spilling to the ball, like sideline to sideline ability, dropping off in coverage, picking the ball off. Just he's that guy that to me, his plays gives the defense energy when I'm watching Whit Weeks. That's the type of defender he reminds me of. Like that energetic, like that brings that juice. So like let's say the defense is not having a good start to the game, he's the dude on the sideline cussing everybody out, like getting everybody together. Like that's how he comes. That's the way he plays. Like I don't know his demeanor personally. That's the way he plays. He's got the big broad black eye paint, you know what I mean? On the face, like he comes out like a warrior. I like his game a lot, Keith. And I'm looking for, because again, we talked about LSU's defense taking that step this year with Nuss at quarterback and all the weapons they have offensively. They're gonna need Whit Weeks to make a lot of plays for him on top of like Mansour Delane and all those young guys in that secondary.
Yeah, no, and so with Whit Weeks, he's a guy that I think is on the verge of really emerging as one of the prospects. I think DP, we can see his stock take off. And it's because the guy's a flat out playmaker. And all he needs is the correct combination of LSU trying to finally have a good defense. They had one in 5 years, right? Trying to finally have a good defense and then them making a playoff run. He can be in position and in the situation to where he looks like the leader of a really good defense, right? And the reason I'm bringing that up, DP, is because we know all of those things matter when it comes to the draft, right? Some of it is narrative and storyline behind you. It just is what it is. And I think with Weeks, I agree with you that the hair on fire situations, the instincts, the fast flow, the sideline to sideline. The thing that I love the most is is the high motor and the reckless abandon playing football.
Yeah.
And that's how you're supposed to play the game. If you're a defender, that's how you play. If you're a safety,
Mm-hmm.
you're a linebacker, you're a defensive lineman, you're supposed to hustle all the way through the play. And I always talk about the pursuit drills. If I have to teach you pursuit drills, I don't want you on my defense. Whit Weeks seems like a guy that you don't have to teach pursuit drills, right? Like he's just gonna go get after it and make plays. So I'm expecting him to DP to continue to make plays throughout this upcoming season, right? And it'll be fun. And if his draft stock doesn't elevate to him being a, let's say, top 75 guy and he still goes in the 4th round, then he'll be a guy that I call at the end of the next draft and say, you know what, one of the biggest steals of the draft. Because if he continues to do what he's going to do, he's going to be one of those guys that fell in the draft and he's playing really good football for a team. And they're like, man, how did this guy fall?
Yeah, and he plays like all over that defense and then linebacker position. He plays both the Mike at times and the Will. So like having that positional flexibility, it also helps you in terms of being somewhat scheme versatile. You know what I mean? To where it's like, okay, can he be like we talked about with Deontay Lawson and Patrick Queen? Can Whit Weeks be a middle linebacker for an odd front 3-4 defense with another that kind of more of the he plays like a splatter guy too, but to me, I would kind of use him as a spill. But if you playing with the splatter, you playing with the Roquan Smith, who is of course the default inside the 3-4 middle linebacker. You want a guy to play with, but if you play him with a guy that plays like that, where he's physical, he's a downhill guy, and you use Whit Weeks and his athleticism as a spill, the coverage guy, things of that nature, like he can play that middle linebacker. But then on the 4-3, he can play the will, where it's like see ball, get ball. And he's just like a dog that's hunting. Like, you know what I mean? He the way he plays and the fact that he tackles well, like he does a lot for this defense, right? And I do think that he gets a little aggressive approaching the ball. And sometimes he doesn't fully break down, which leads to some sloppy tackle mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Just something that's coachable. Coachable, you know what I mean? And things like that. So he can always improve that because he did account for like 16 missed tackles, and that's really the reason why. It's just that he's plays so fast. He kind of like a basketball sense. He's like that guard in fast break that you eventually need to slow down. It's like, hey, you are going way too fast to the cup. Like the reason why you smoking that layup because you're not under control, big fella. Calm it down.
That thing hard off the backboard.
Hard off the glass.
What we doing?
Like,
add some finesse to your game, young man. Add some finesse, please.
Just get us a nice little pretty finger roll and we're fine. It's going to kiss off the glass and go in. But you're on 100 miles per hour. I think if he slows down, I don't think the game. Of course, the game is going to slow down even more for him as he plays. I don't think the game has to. For him to be better, it doesn't have to slow down. He has to slow down and just temper his speeds. And if he does that when he's approaching the ball carrier, break down, wrap up, bring the guy to the ground, because it's not like he's getting tossed off, like ball carriers are stiff arming them and throwing them away like he doesn't have strength. He's just too aggressive. And I think if he kind of finds that even balance of being technically refined, but also still a dog, he's going to be just fine from a tackling standpoint. And he's going to be another 3-down linebacker. I think all three of the guys we talked about today, Keith, Whit Weeks, Deontay Lawson, and Anthony Hill, all of them are, to me, prototypical to date, modern-day linebackers that will play all 3 downs for you.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, one of my favorite episodes because it was an SEC episode. Another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, we are getting into more linebackers. We're going to be talking about C.J. Allen. We're going back to the SEC. We're talking about Georgia's, C.J. Allen, and why he has a case to put his name in that LB1 hat, man. So we're going to talk about him on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.